Well, I guess we're here today to talk about fuel quality. The recent incident at the Speedway gas stations has raised the issue of fuel quality again in Ohio. Things like water in the fuel or diesel fuel in someone's gas tank can do some major damage to someone's vehicle very quickly. And so this is an issue that county auditors around the state have been interested in for some time. There's been different, over the past 20 years, there have been different times when legislation has been introduced or proposed, and it kind of ebbs and flows depending on the situation. But recent incidences, like down in Butler County, where they had some problems down in Butler County recently, and now the diesel mixture of diesel fuel here with the stations here in the area has just raised this issue again. And it is something that county auditors have been interested in. We continue to be interested in. Ohio is one of only 4 states in the nation that does not have a fuel quality testing program. And again, it's one that we've been advocating for here in the Montgomery County Auditor's Office. I know since the year 2000 we started, got interested in this issue almost 20 years ago, and we haven't seen a whole lot of progress made, but hopefully things like this will serve as an impetus to try to get something done.
Why has it been so hard to get something done or some kind of program in place?
Well, it's difficult. It's a difficult program to put in place, and again, other states have programs, and so we can learn from their practices, but it's expensive. There's a certain cost involved, and you have to make decisions about what kind of a lab you might have and how you would draw samples and get those to the lab, and the complexities of that is difficult, so I'll admit that, and there's some cost involved. So I think in the early part of the century there was a push going on, but then when we reached the recession and governments had to cut back and the state had to cut back, kind of lost the interest for spending money to put a program in place. Now things improving somewhat, there may be a new interest in trying to pursue something. I know there is legislation that's been proposed in Columbus. There's a couple of legislators that are pushing a piece of legislation. We've been working with them. We've talked with them a couple of times, and so we'll continue to do that.
I'm sitting at home watching this. What can I do?
Well, one thing we tell people to do, if you ever have a situation with bad gas, or you think something wasn't quite right at any time at a gas station of any type, you can call our hotline at 225-6309. Again, we are not authorized to test for quality. The only thing that auditors are authorized to do under the state law is to test to make sure the pump is working properly, and that it's, when it says it pumps a gallon, that you get a gallon. Of course, we also, when we're out there, we're checking for things like skimmers. And so anytime anyone feels like they've had an incident like that they want to call someone's attention, we ask them to call us, and we'll go out and check it. But even in an incident of bad gas, it's helpful if they will call and let us know. Because again, trying to push something through the legislature, one of the issues that we've had is that, well, are there any victims, or who are the victims? And so we're trying to compile incidents like this that we can say, well, there are victims and there is a need for this. And so anytime you have a problem with that, we ask people to call us.
And this is 4 gas stations over the course of 4 days that there's a concern about, so it sounds like obviously there are a lot of victims. Is it difficult to try to get people to come forward or to track down who these people are?
I'm sure it would be, and it depends on the amount, what kind of damage has been done to the car. A number of years ago, there was a station that pumped, in error, pumped diesel fuel completely into an underground tank, and so people were putting diesel fuel into their cars. Well, those cars didn't make it to the street. So it depends on what the level of contaminant is in the pump and how quickly it causes damage to someone's vehicle. Water, one of the things that we're most concerned about is just water being in the gas, and that's can easily be done. When you open up those, they have ground storage tanks at these stations. You open up the ground storage tank, and if it's raining or if it has been raining, it's easy to get water into those underground storage tanks, and you mix enough water in with the fuel, and that will cause quite a bit of damage with someone's vehicle. But again, it may take a while for that to manifest itself, but it's a concern. Water, sediment that's in the fuel, all of those pumps have sediment in the bottom of their tanks. So it just depends on how much of that has been mixed in with the gas that you put in your vehicle. We often hear from people like lawnmower repair services. Again, you're talking about a lawnmower that only has like a gallon or 2 gallon or 3 gallon tank, so there's not a lot there, and so just a little bit of water in that or a little bit of sediment in that can cause some damage to that lawnmower, the engine on that lawnmower, pretty quickly.
This seems like a pretty universal need. You know, I mean, why is it so hard to get this off the ground? I mean, are we talking malicious stuff, or just people diluting gasoline on purpose, or?
Well, in the past, there's been talk of Ohio being a dumping ground for bad gas. I'm not sure that's the case, but there have been people who have suggested that. Again, knowing that we are one of the states that does not check for fuel quality, that the petroleum industry could be using Ohio as a dumping ground to put bad gas out here. I don't necessarily think that's the case. Again, I think the current incident seems like it was a mistake, that's a human error. But again, those types of things need to be regulated and need to be checked because consumers pay a lot of money for gas, and you know, it's something we take for granted. We do every day. We spend a lot of money for gas, and these types of things can cause a lot of damage to someone's car really quickly. Same as it is with skimmers and the other things that we check for. It's important that somebody regulate that and check that, and that's what we try to do.
I guess I was surprised today to hear that there is no sort of quality or check and balance here.
Yeah.
Do you think most people are aware that?
Oh, I think most people think, I've got those little stickers on those gas pumps, and a lot of people refer to me as the gas pump guy, and I think they think, when we're out there, that's one of the things we're checking for is the quality of the gas, and we're really not authorized to do that. We're only authorized to make sure the pump is calibrated correctly and it's pumping the correct amount of fuel. So I think that does come as a surprise to people. Now, if you talk with people in the petroleum industry, they'll say that they've got a lot of controls and regulations and measures in place to prevent things like this from happening. But these, human error is still out there. The pump itself, it's a mechanical device. It can get out of calibration, and so someone needs to check those things. And I think the other thing about county auditors, I've got inspectors that are in the field every day. We do every year we check every gas pump in the county at least once. So we do 5,000 gas pump inspections a year. So I think that's one of the reasons why we've advocated for it. We've got inspectors who are in the field already. They're going to these stations, they're checking these pumps. This would just be an added thing that they would do, but we already have the personnel in place, and with a little bit of training and some equipment, they would be able to do some testing there, and at pretty inexpensively, we believe.